What if students could actually help you build a stronger classroom environment instead of you carrying that responsibility alone? I'm Dr. Ruthie Payno-Simmons, your inclusive disruptor. You may know this space is Keeping It Real with Dr. Ruthie Payno-Simmons Uncensored. I've switched some things up as I continue learning and growing. The podcast is now Dr. Ruthie Speaks Education, where I'm sharing shorter episodes focused on real talk, practical strategies, and the ways we can make sure that student voice, visibility, and validation is a reality in schools. You'll still feel the same heart and energy, just in a new way. So let's dive in. And if you find yourself thinking this is helpful, go ahead and like and subscribe and share this with someone in education who might benefit from the conversation.
Welcome to Real Talk with Dr. Ruthie Uncensored.
I am Dr. Ruthie Payno-Simmons.
Where we get honest about the real challenges and possibilities in education and beyond. And beyond.
You know, when I was growing up, there was a saying I heard all the time. Children should be seen and not heard. I honestly don't even know where that came from, but I remember hearing it everywhere, at home, at school, in conversations adults had around us. And if you were a child who asked a lot of questions like I was, or spoke up a little too quickly like I was, someone would usually follow it up with something like, because I said so, or don't talk back, and sometimes stay in a child's place. Now, when you hear things like that over and over again as a young person, something starts to happen. Those messages start shaping how you see yourself. They teach our youth that their voices don't matter. They don't have anything to contribute, that there's nothing adults can learn from young people. It's an unintentional consequence. And here's the interesting part. Many of us who grew up hearing those messages are now working in schools where we're trying to do the exact opposite. We want students thinking. We want them engaged. We want them contributing to the learning environment in ways that's meaningful for them. So the real question becomes this: how do we move from simply hearing students to actually building learning environments with them? Not just asking for their input, but inviting them to work side by side with adults, helping shape the routines, expectations, and the systems they experience every single day. Let's get into some real talk about teaching. Teachers, I see the complexity of your work. I was a classroom teacher for many years and a building administrator. I know you manage curriculum, standards, behavior expectations, relationships, student well-being, and a whole list of things that most people outside of education, they never fully see, so they don't fully understand. It is complex work, and you do it with care and thoughtfulness. So here's the opportunity. Even small shifts towards co-collaboration can transform classrooms and schools. Participation is a good thing, right? Students raising their hands, sharing ideas, answering questions. But co-construction? That's the next level. You want to level up, level up, level up? That's when students begin influencing decisions about learning environments, expectations, and experiences. And let's be honest, when students help build the systems, they're far more likely to honor it. Students bring a wealth of knowledge with them into schools. They're not blank slates. They bring a wealth of experience, curiosity, and insight about how schools actually feel on the receiving end. They bring what educators often call funds of knowledge, cultural experiences, family wisdom, and community perspectives that shape how they see the world and should shape how schools are set up. And when we position students intentionally, something powerful happens. Engagement rises, well-being improves, and classrooms and schools begin to thrive. And these are the things that we're working on in schools. So why does it matter? It matters because when students help build their learning environments, they develop ownership. They feel seen, heard, and validated. They build agency and responsibility, and they help shape safer, more connected school communities. Isn't this what we're all working towards? If this conversation is resonating with you so far, take a second to like this episode or this video, subscribe to the channel and to the podcast channel as well, and please share it with someone on your team or someone in your world that you think it might benefit. These are the kinds of conversations that can really help spark change when leadership and teams work and learn together. So let's talk about some practical strategies for leveling up student voice. So what does it look like, right, to move beyond surface level voice activities and begin positioning students as collaborators in the systems that they navigate? That is the question. I want to walk you through some practical strategies you can use at 3 levels: the classroom level, the building level, and at the district level. So here are 3 classroom strategies or strategies for the classroom. 1, co-construct your classroom behavior expectations. Instead of presenting a list of expectations at the beginning of the year, try building them with your students. You might say something like, we want this classroom to be a place where everyone can learn, feel respected, and take risk. Let's figure out together what that needs to look like, feel like, and sound like. Then invite students to talk through questions that they have or questions that they might ask. What helps people feel respected in the classroom? What behaviors make learning easier for everyone? What should happen when someone disrupts learning or makes a mistake? What is it that you want and need from your teachers and from one another? Students will share their ideas, and together you'll build your classroom expectations. But here's the key. Don't stop there. Have students also help to define what those expectations actually look like in practice, how the class supports each other when things get off track, and when expectations need to be revisited or adjusted. Remember, we want our students to be a part of creating these things. Now, expectations aren't rules being handed down when you do it this way. It's the agreements that the class has built together. The second strategy is to invite your students to help design learning experiences. You still hold responsibility for the learning standards, but students can actually help shape how learning unfolds. We call it negotiating the curriculum and learning. At the beginning of the unit, you might say, these are the concepts that we need to explore together. Let's think about the best way to learn them. Students might help shape things like project formats, real-world connections, how learning is demonstrated, how groups collaborate. For an example, during a science unit, students might suggest interviewing community members, investigating a local issue, or creating multimedia to show their learning and to share that learning. You're still guiding the learning when you do this, but students are helping to design the pathway. The third strategy is partner with students to improve the classroom environment. Every few weeks, pause and invite students into a reflection conversation. You might say, we've been learning together for a while now. Let's talk about what's working in this classroom and what can make it even better. Students can discuss what helps them focus and learn, what makes learning harder, what changes might strengthen the environment. Then together, you pick 1 or 2 adjustments, right, to try. And maybe it's changing discussion routines, or maybe it's adjusting group work. Maybe there's more individualization based on what individual students share. Maybe it's creating new ways for quieter students to contribute, because that's a big one. You can also test and change these things later as you go. Students then are helping to improve the systems they experience every day. Let's talk about 3 strategies for building at the building level. The first one is to invite students into school climate conversations. If your school is working on climate, belonging, or safety, bring students into the conversation early. You might create a small student group that meets with staff and administrators to explore questions. They can explore questions like, where do students feel more connected in this school? And where do students feel overlooked? What practices help students feel respected? You can even use survey data to help students work together to design improvements. Students might help design or redesign transition routines. They may design or redesign welcome systems for new students or for shared spaces, right? The second strategy is to work with students to investigate school challenges. When a challenge keeps showing up in your building, maybe hallway conflicts or attendance patterns are occurring, you can invite students to help explore what those challenges are. And you could start the conversation by saying, we've noticed this challenge in our schools and we want to understand it better. We'd love your help in figuring it out. Students are eager and willing to help, especially when they can see themselves reflected in the decisions. So students might help gather perspectives from peers. They might map patterns in the school day or brainstorm solutions. And together you can test ideas and evaluate what works. Students become partners in solving real problems. The third strategy at the building level is including students in leadership spaces. Another step you can take is inviting students into spaces where decisions are being made. School improvement teams is a good place to start. We have PBIS teams, climate or belonging committees, all the different places where decisions are being made and problems are being solved. Because when students are present, the conversation definitely changes because the people most affected by the decisions are actually helping to shape them. They're telling their stories. Let's talk about 3 strategies for the district level. Create student advisory and district leadership is the first strategy. If you work at the district level, consider creating a student advisory group that meet regularly with district leaders. You can invite students to talk about things like student well-being, student engagement, district initiatives, events, and projects. Their perspectives can help leaders understand how policies and decisions are experienced in real classrooms and buildings. The second strategy is to invite students into policy conversations. When your district reviews policies, especially policies like attendance or discipline, or those that are related to discipline and attendance, you can invite them by asking them, how does this policy actually show up in your school experience? Their insights can reveal things that adults just might not see. You want to partner with students as the third strategy when designing new initiatives, not after the fact. When your district launches a new initiative, you want to bring students in early. Ask them to help think through what the challenges might be, right? What are the challenges students are experiencing and what ideas might work best? How to communicate initiatives in ways that students actually connect with. What's their language? What's accessible for them? Students can even help pilot ideas, provide feedback before they expand across the district. So in our closing, here's something I want you to sit with. Food for thought. Think about the last time a student shared an idea in your classroom or at the district level. What happened next? Did the idea simply get heard, or did it help shape what happened after that? Because voice matters. When students begin to see their ideas reflected in the practices, routines, and decisions around them, that is when the voice becomes transformational. If this conversation sparked an idea for you, share this episode with a colleague or leadership team so that we can engage in this conversation together. And thank you for the work that you do. Until next time, I'm Dr. Ruthie Payno-Simmons. I'm your inclusive disruptor. And here, we keep it real while building learning environments where students don't just participate, they help build the systems that help everyone to thrive. And also, it is a place where I want to honor the work that teachers do every day, the work that administrators do every day, and that the school community does every day, because it is the most challenging yet rewarding and beautiful work, and the opportunities to level up student voice in the activities in which students engage. And I would even say the best way to make sure that this is consistently done is to look at your infrastructure and think about where are the opportunities to embed student voice in infrastructures so that it is a regular part of everyday practices and experiences and decision making. If you want to sit with this a little longer, I expand on these ideas in this month's LinkedIn newsletter. You can find the link in the show notes. Take a moment to read and reflect with your team, and also feel free to share. Thank you so much for joining. I truly appreciate you taking time to listen. In addition to this podcast, I have a company called RPS Educational Impact, where I support school districts, educational entities, and organizations wanting to improve their systems through continuous improvement processes, and also those who want to make sure that the systems are working for all students and for the school community. RPS Educational Impact is dedicated to empowering students, families, and educators. Our mission is to support educational agencies in developing innovative solutions that strengthen educational practices, policies that enrich learning experiences and support each student's success. We enjoy supporting educators at all levels through professional development, coaching, continuous improvement, and implementation supports to create learning environments where all students can thrive. So visit rpsimpact.com to find out more about the technical assistance that we can provide you.
Welcome to Real Talk with Dr. Ruthie Uncensored.
I am Dr. Ruthie
Where we
Payno-Simmons.
get honest about the real challenges and possibilities in education and beyond. And beyond.